Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of the Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast. And wow, I never thought that it would be so easy to say all those words, but it's a thing now. But on the other line with me today, he's the man that will never leave a plate full. It's good old Dougie Fresh. Dougie, man, how you doing?
Is that a fat joke? Right off the bat, or are you just coming in?
Well, you are one to say you'll eat until everything's gone. You don't like seeing anything on a plate.
This is revenge for all the years of... What's my nickname this week? I'm not telling you. Oh. Let me tell you something. I've got a couple in the bank if we ever do that wrestling show again.
I know, for real. But it is the Snorlax episode. So today is our 41st episode called Wake Up Snorlax, or translated from Japan, Wake Up Kabigon.
So anytime they put a Pokemon's name in the title, they just do the translation. They don't do like, well, no, but wasn't it, didn't the Pikachu's goodbye, wasn't it something, didn't it say like Pikachu something or other?
Yeah, it's Forest of Pikachu.
Yeah, so I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, for the March of the Executor Squad, it's translated the Huge March of the Nassy Squad.
Well, all right. So they just throw a dart wherever it lands.
And that's Nassy, Nassy, not nasty, which it might have sounded like I said.
Well, I just assumed that's what you said, because that would have made sense.
But, all right, everybody. Yeah, we're all over the place. But today's episode, Wake Up Snorlax, premiered in Japan April 23rd, 1998. And here in the States, premiered October 28th, 1998. So we're within the same year, just a couple months apart at this point. And as you know, hardcore fans, we like to go back on the American date. But before we do that, good old Dougie Fresh. So we had something interesting that happened about almost a week ago now.
Yeah, I was thinking if I could make a joke, turn it into my, like, every couple episodes and make a joke about it being Digimon. I can't really make that joke. Not with this.
Not with this. But
I was gonna say, like, that's right, we decided to make the switch. That doesn't work.
So we've been in talks with a certain guest star that's going to be coming onto our show, where we're not going to announce who the star is as of yet, because the date and everything is still being finalized. But if you have been following our Twitter, like thousands of you have, because thousands of you finally picked up and jumped on the band track and bandwagon. Yeah, I do podcasting for a living, everybody.
That's all right. At least your mic was on.
It wasn't a couple weeks ago. So don't give me too much credit. But yeah, if you were following our Twitter feed on @PokeBreakdown, we have a pretty big guest that's getting ready to come onto our show. Like I said, we're not going to announce it. You might have to go onto our Twitter feed and go ahead and hit that follow button, as I know
which wouldn't be the end of the world.
I know. So you can keep up with everything Pokemon and everything about the podcast, because I do kind of tweet ever so often on there. So yeah, Doug, one of our biggest, if not the biggest guest that we might end up having on this show.
Yeah, one of the biggest you could get, one could argue.
Yeah.
Full stop, I would say. Can't really go too far into detail without giving it away, and kind of like you said, we don't want to
spoil the pot.
We don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, because
things can happen.
Everything seems to be moving along, but we've learned that all it takes is one bit of scheduling conflict and everything gets thrown out of whack.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're not going to announce who it is. If you want to know who it is, follow us on Twitter, where it seems like everybody kind of jumped on and found our show. So we have a bigger audience as of now. So thankfully, but yeah, hopefully sometime within the next few weeks we'll be able to announce the guest. And I guess we can throw out there we're kind of shooting for the Pokemon movie, right?
Yeah, that I think we kind of kicked it around when it was kind of kicking off, and I think we landed on that would be the most impactful that
Yes.
we could do.
Pokemon, the first movie. And it looks like it's going to be coming around our 1 year anniversary, which is best. So that's just everything just needs to land properly these next few weeks.
Right.
So, but yeah, all right, enough on the teaser. That is your huge teaser, everybody. Hopefully we'll have more update within the next few weeks. But all right, let's go ahead and get on into this Snorlax episode. So on October 28th, I believe you said yours is a little further than mine. So I'm going first this week because mine was 2007, right?
Yeah, you beat me by a couple of years.
All right. And it wasn't on purpose this time. So in 2007, October 28th, the movie called B Movie premiered here in the US and in the UK on the exact same day. Big movie.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld as a bee. The famous meme coming out of it is Jerry Seinfeld cocking an eyebrow, or his character in the movie cocking an eyebrow and going, "You like jazz?" And that's probably about as far as I can give you. That's a little bit more information than I could give you, as opposed to your other potential topic that we were kind of knocking around.
Yeah, it was that, or I'll give you guys because we're probably never gonna hit this date again. So the first one I was gonna go with was Jake Gyllenhaal's Donnie Darko, premiered in 2001 on this date. But me and you both kind of agreed that we couldn't really talk too much on that movie as we could the B movie because we've actually both have seen it. And also on 2016, How Far I'll Go premiered from Disney from the movie Moana.
That actually would have been interesting because I think that at that point we would have had to. Well, I don't know, because mine, was also from 2016. So I think we would have either had to do like
A flip of the coin.
virtual rock paper scissors or something.
I would have turned the video on and said rock paper scissors shoot.
And I would have flipped you off.
Yeah, you would have.
Yeah.
All right. So B movie for mine. So yours is from 2016, as you stated, Doug. So what is yours?
So on this date, on October 28th, 2016, we had Game 3 of the 2016 World Series.
Ooh.
Which was, of course, between the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. This game was at Wrigley. It was the first Wrigley Field World Series game since Game 4 of the 1945 World Series. It was lost by the Cubs 1-0 on a base hit by a bench player. It was very well pitched on both ends. I was in Kentucky watching it in a frat house.
You're in a frat house,
I remember.
Doug?
Well, yeah, I was hanging. Well, not officially like recognized like by the University of Louisville, but it was a house with a bunch of frat guys in it.
Oh, okay. So good shit.
I remember being upset. I remember singing Jolene by Dolly Parton. I remember getting drunker than I should have.
I was about to say, how much did you have to drink that night?
More than I should have, especially considering that we meeting my brother's fiance's parents for the first time the next evening.
Oh, hung over like crazy.
And the first thing that her dad says is, "Hey, nice to meet you. Want a beer?" And of course I said, "Yeah," because if somebody offers you a beer, you're not going to turn it down.
For real. That's just plain rude.
That was I don't want to go too far into it because we might have additional dates. Actually, no, I was looking ahead and I was kind of disappointed, but I could go. I honestly could have gone back to that well again tomorrow.
I was about to say, I mean, tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, but next week's show
Next week.
Premiered the day after, October 29th.
But I decided not to, but I decided to go a different direction because we get beat even worse the next day. I mean, it works out well in the end, obviously, if anybody's familiar with that World Series. But yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up just for the fact that it had been, however many years between games.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the part of the show that everybody is waiting for, because apparently our people don't like us going over the on this date. Apparently,
I've heard that. I've seen that.
Yeah, but y'all can fuck off because we're gonna keep doing it. So you can go ahead and skip if you want. I'm just messing with you, people. Don't fuck off. I love all my EP fans, even the ones that leave us a 4-star review, fucking hating on our show. That was funny. I hate your show because kids can't listen to it, but I'm still gonna give you 4 stars, and you know who you are, and I know you still listen.
Probably listening to this right now.
For real. All right, so let's go ahead and get on into this episode, Doug. So we start this week's Wake Up Snorlax episode with the narrator talking about our trio, and the trio is in the forest again. Pikachu is sleeping on Ash's back, looking all sorts of comfortable, and they kind of walk up to a guy sitting on a rock and starts playing a flute for them, and then asks them for some money or food. He'll take both or either. Right, Doug?
It should be noted that the flute is the... Well, I mean, we can acknowledge the games at this point, right?
Yes.
So it's the flute from the game. Obviously, if you're familiar with this episode, so it's a flute and it's got a Pokeball at the end of it.
A Poke Flute.
And he's talking in all this jive, and I think they even call him a hippie on the show.
Yep.
It's definitely Brock doing the voice. So. And the flute wakes up Pikachu, it should be noted.
Yes, because that's the perk of this flute that we were not supposed to know yet, but it's coming, people. But I do want to give notice when they have a clear shot of the sky when he's playing this flute, and they have a cloud in the shape of a Zapdos.
I did. It was shaped like something, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it looks like either a Pharaoh or a Zapdos, but when I was looking it up, Reddit seems to think that it's a Zapdos, so I'm just going to run with it because people on Reddit...
good old Reddit.
People on Reddit seem to know everything, and if you don't go with them, they will mess with you.
Yeah, they'll drag you.
Yeah. But after Pikachu wakes up, the guy is asking for some money or some food, and of course our trio is like, well, we don't have either. We're actually pretty hungry ourselves, and kind of breaks the heart of this flute player at this time. And he's like, oh, another free song. So yeah, and then our heroes continue on their journey.
He says it's another free song, and he just waves them up the road. Like, get the fuck out of here. Go on. Not gonna feed me. Get out of here.
He's one to talk though. So,
Well, this is true.
like,
But yeah, then we get the title.
and then Ash and the gang are walking away again, and now his stomach is grumbling.
And we realize that we're all starving a little bit.
Yeah, because Ash is like, man, I'm about to collapse. And Misty's like, we haven't had anything to eat since yesterday. So they're going on 24 hours without some food. And Brock just looks defeated. And I kind of feel for Brock because Brock likes to cook. And we find out later in the series when Brock leaves that Ash kind of misses Brock because Brock used to make all the food and Ash doesn't know how to cook.
That's a shitty reason to miss a friend, I hate to tell you.
I know. But it's at this point that our heroes are walking out of the forest and they start seeing land and a bunch of houses. And then we switch over to Team Rocket, getting the flute player to play for them as well.
And they immediately call him out because they say, you stop people, you play a song for them, and then you beg for food.
Yes. So Team Rocket doesn't, I mean, obviously with them being Team Rocket, they're not going to give the guy any food. They're not going to give the guy any money because why would they? They're thieves. And James had enough nerve to call the guy weird and say he's playing a weird song.
Well, he wouldn't have thought that if he was a Pokemon.
Well, apparently if you're a Pokemon, even Meowth was like, you need some music lessons. And then they just walk off.
Well, he was already awake, you see.
Yeah. Pikachu probably would have said the same thing.
Well.
And
yeah, you know.
But it's funny because the little hippie guy, his last line as they're walking off is just bad vibes, man. He's like, those dudes should at least respect their elders. But our hero, we switch back to our heroes, and Ash is like, we finally made it. And Missy's like, at last we can get something to eat. And then they walk up to a bread store, and there's no bread, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can look right in the window and you don't see any bread on the display. You just see a bunch of crumbs. And pardon me, Ash walks up to the window and says,
hey, we'd like
to buy some bread, please.
Yeah, we'd like to buy some bread. And fucking Misty just full on Japanese animation just tilts her head and just starts crying. That's the ugliest I've seen Misty.
She said, how is there no bread at the bakery?
So, but after Ash asks for some bread, the baker comes in and says, well, we haven't had any bread in weeks. Everything is dried up here. So there's no bread at the bakery. There's no food anywhere because everything is dried up. So, Doug, what happens next?
Well, they're sitting on a bench area. They're defeated. And some old dude walks up and asks what's the problem. And, you know, Brock kind of says what we've been saying. And
yeah, they want some food. And the nice little gentleman who, I mean, I guess for this type of town, the way he's dressed, he looks like he's a little wealthy, and he even has a nice little, it looks like he has a ring on with a nice little cane that he has as well to keep his balance. And he has, what type of hat would you say that is, Doug?
Well, I mean, it would be oversimplifying it to call it a beanie, but that's kind of what it is. I mean, it looks like it's made of wool, but, you know, I'm not versed in Japanese fashion. Okay. Probably insulting some people.
So, yeah, it looks like a little beanie, but I'm not sure really what to call that type of hat. But, yeah, and with us saying that he looks a little wealthy, the next shot is his house, and it looks like it's the biggest house with a nice view of the mountain in the background, and he has a nice long driveway, a nice little walkway, and this house is just gorgeous and full of food, Doug.
Yes, because we do a quick cut into the dining room table, and our trio plus Pikachu is just chowing down, just housing a bunch of food, and this poor guy's sitting there trying to carry on a conversation, and these people are just piling bread and stew and morsels just all in there.
So, but yeah, the guy is telling him, my family can live off our food stores. So apparently he owns a store and he's still able to get the food that he needs. But it's kind of curious because Brock starts to go, well, what's all dried up? What's all happened here? Doesn't it rain? And the guy said, yeah, it rains, but we haven't had a full thing of water in quite some time. The water just stopped coming at some point.
And as if to hammer home the point even further, we we do a quick jump to the river, and we see that it's just the very small trickle of water going all the way through the town, which is, pardon me, is just unattainable or unsustainable, I should say.
So, all right. So let's see. But it's at this point that our trio is sitting here, and they're like, well, we're gonna go and find what's going on here and why everything's all dried up. Let's just follow the river. And the guy says, I should warn you that no one dares go upstream. People that go upstream, there's no telling what you might find out there. So apparently there's something out there, Doug, that everyone in the town is kind of scared of, which even after watching this episode, I still don't understand what they are scared of outside of what we're just about to come up to.
Yeah, I had forgotten that line about, we don't know what's up there. I mean, well, I mean, we'll get into it, but unless you're worried about getting squished, if you get close enough. But I think before we go much further, I think we should put respect on this guy's name. He does, they don't make a big deal of it, but he does turn out to be the mayor of the town, or at least they call him the mayor, and he doesn't correct him. He doesn't correct them.
So yeah, they end up going upstream, and then they end up finding a very big thing of vines with a bunch of pointy spikes, and they try to go through these vines, which is not smart, but they're just little kids. And Pikachu even gets stuck as he's trying to climb through this, Doug.
Yeah, I mean, and it's dumb, and I understand it's a kid's show, and I understand you got to advance the plot, and I understand you only have 15 minutes, well, 13 minutes, because 2 minutes for this. So you only have 13 minutes to do it. But they say, oh, this is a big mass of thorns and vines. We're just going to plow through, and, Misty gets cut up, and Pikachu gets caught. It's at that point, which is something he should have done at the outset, he calls out Bulbasaur.
Well, that here's the funny part of that. So they got through the first batch of vines, so they got through it, and the water is still dried up on the other side of the vines, and they see more vines ahead of them, and they're like, well, we're not going to get cut up again. We're going to send our Pokemon out and get these vines cut.
Well, and that's fine, and that's great. But shouldn't they have done that at the outset and just said, "Oh, we might get cut." I mean, look, we have the ability of hindsight.
Yes.
They don't. Well, anyway, it's a kid show. So they call out Bulbasaur, they get through it. Misty gonna send out one of her Pokemon to do its part. Of course, we get Psyduck because that's the gag at the moment. He gets all caught up in the thorns.
Psyduck just gets no love in this show.
He doesn't really until we get to his like redemption episode.
I know. But it's at this point, after they get through everything, they come up to a very, very huge Pokemon, and you won't believe what Pokemon this is.
No, there's no way to tell. Not like it's in the title or
Not anything. But it's a very, very huge Snorlax. And this Snorlax is dead asleep in the middle of the water path. And basically, he's just soaking up all the water with his body, and the water just can't get through, Doug.
absolutely not. I mean, and you see behind him, you see a little bit of, pardon me, you see a little bit of trickle, so you know that there's water back there. But he's just gumming the works up, and they say, "Well, this is easy. We'll just wake him up and we'll be on our way." So they're sitting there. They're trying to be gentle. They're all sitting there going, "Wake up, Snorlax, wake up!" And Pikachu's on his stomach, giving a little push, and Ash gets a bullhorn, and everybody shits themselves.
So, yeah, this Snorlax is just as stubborn as he comes and just will not wake up. And even Ash gets a blowhorn, and apparently he's loud enough to where Misty and Brock had to cover their ears. And he's like, "Hey, you big Pokemon, wake up!" And still nothing.
Nothing.
Not even a scratch on the head. Actually, he might have scratched his head at this point. No, he didn't.
He did not. And then Ash, being a trainer, we get out Dexter, and what does Dexter say? Because
he said, "Okay."
He weighs Snorlax weighs 1,000 pounds, and
Snorlax. Okay, I'll give you what, because I have the subtitles right here. So he takes out the Pokedex, and Dexter goes, "Snorlax is the heaviest species of all known Pokemon." Let's see. The next line is, "with some weighing more than 1,000 pounds." And Ash is like, 1,000 pounds? And Missy's like, "Dang, there's no way we're going to be able to move this thing."
And then Ash gets the bright idea, because he does remember he's a trainer. And he says, "Well, I'll just catch it." And he throws a Pokeball, and it just hits his stomach and just rolls off.
Yep. And that's pretty weird that the Pokeball would not catch this. Because I had that problem in the game. Like, I'm like, okay, well, even in the game, you need the damn Pokeflute to wake him up, and nothing. Like, I mean, I'm like, well, I'll just throw a Pokeball at this thing, or even an Ultra Ball, because I think you at least have Ultra Ball at this time.
Well, but the thing that is getting lost here, and I mean, obviously we don't know this now if we're watching the episode with fresh eyes, but he's old.
Yeah, that is true.
It's the hippie dudes.
So,
I mean, I'm kind of blowing the end of the episode a little bit,
but yeah, it's at this point that they all seem defeated, and let's see what happens after here, because I kind of paused.
Then we get Team Rocket.
Yes, Team Rocket, and they get the bright idea of catching a Snorlax too and giving it to the boss.
So they come out, and they're doing like a nature documentary thing
in full uniform.
Like James has a microphone, and Jesse's on the camera, and they say,
we're here to report. Cameraman, zoom in. It's sleeping, still sleeping. Watch closely as it's sleeping. This is how Snorlax looks when he's sleeping. Ooh, doesn't it look so cute?"
They say, "Well, we're gonna wake up the Snorlax," and Ash is at this point just sitting there, and he's rolling his eyes. "What are you doing?" And then Team Rocket does their spiel.
"Prepare for trouble and make it double." and what makes me trip out about Team Rocket in this episode is Team Rocket are the master of disguises, and they're always tricking Ash, only being 10 years old. But they are in full Team Rocket gear. They are not even trying to hide anything at all. And I want to know how they got through all those damn vines with the camera, because they definitely didn't snap those vines at the beginning. So why aren't they all cut up and the wires snapped on this camera?
Exactly, and it's not like they had Arbok out there like chomping at the vines or whatever. And even if that would be effective, and Weezing's not going to do anything. So, and Meowth is up in a hot air balloon here.
Yeah, for real. But it's at this point they're doing their spiel, and they actually don't get interrupted for once. I mean, you would have thought that Ash and the heroes would have interrupted them on this one, because it's at this point after they go through the spiel, Ash gets so pissed off and he's like, your routine is so boring, Snorlax will go into a deeper sleep. Like, the balls on this boy.
And even with that little remark, they kind of come to a momentary truce because they realize it behooves everybody to move the Snorlax, and they can go on bickering with each other. And Meowth is up in a hot air balloon, and they bring down like restraints to like hook on his arms and legs to pull him up.
And you know, this for Team Rocket, for as dumb as Team Rocket is, this was honestly a very smart idea.
It wasn't bad. I mean, in hindsight, it might have been a little poorly thought out, but at least it was something, better than what they were doing, pushing him and yelling into a bullhorn.
Yeah, for real. Like Team Rocket, I mean, whoever thought that a freaking air balloon would be able to hold 1,000-pound Pokemon is just beyond me.
Right, but at least it's something.
But it's at this point that Ash is actually down with this plan. He's like, normally I wouldn't be up for stealing a Snorlax, but we got to get it out of the way, at least for us. And Brock is down with this too. And freaking Pikachu is over there with freaking, what are those things called? Traffic signals to get everything.
I mean, he's waving in the balloon, and they hook him up, and I wouldn't even venture to say they got him off the ground. I mean, you saw his arms and legs lifting a little bit, but you could see that the cables were getting tight, and they snap, and Meowth goes flying, and then Ash is a complete dick. He goes, well, of course it didn't work. Team Rocket's involved. They always find a way to mess it up.
Even though he was the one freaking helping them strap everything down.
Like, and at least they had an idea.
Yeah, for real. I mean,
what was his idea? Push the Snorlax and yell into a bullhorn?
What the hell? He's like, the cables were too weak. I knew this wouldn't work. You knew it so much that it wouldn't work that you helped them snap it down.
Right, you knew it wouldn't work.
So, all right. So, Doug, what happens after Meowth goes blasting off again?
Well, so he goes blasting, but it's a relatively short blast because he does come down. He does come down relatively close to the scene. He gets out, and he's banged up because he just fell from a hot air balloon. And he's determined to wake it up. And, they go through a bunch of different tricks. They go through an alarm clock on a stick and a bucket of water. And
so
Snorlax is just sleeping like a baby. And
so, all right. So, yes, at this point, let's see. They go through all the motions and get the bright idea to do a Sleeping Beauty bit. And They find, well, not really find, but freaking Psyduck makes his next appearance in this episode and is like, I'll kiss Snorlax and I'll wake him up, and fucking flies out of the Pokeball and just lays a big one on Snorlax.
Right. And the whole bit was, oh, we need to find a noble Pokemon. And they were going to do Horsey because it's so innocent and pure. But then, like you said, Psyduck has his habit of just popping up, and he pops up and just launches himself at Snorlax, and it's not very effective, to use the term of the game.
Look at you, Doug.
But he just goes bouncing off.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, at least at this point with Meowth, Snorlax at least moved.
This is true.
So, I mean, it wasn't
I don't know what that says.
It must be a huge shocker, because Meowth didn't even want to do it. Like, they dressed him up in this whole bit, and James is like, go give it a smack attack right now. And Meowth is like, disgusting, I quit. No way, I'm not going to do this. And they just fucking throw him in.
And like you said, Snorlax kind of furrows its brow and kind of starts turning a little blue. And then, Meowth gets offended because it's like, how dare my kiss not wake you up? And he kicks him, and Meowth goes flying because his belly absorbs the shock, and then Snorlax
kind of moves over.
And we see a do not disturb sign under it.
In case of emergency, please use a Pokeflute to wake, is what the sign says.
And they all sit there and go, a Pokeflute? So they pull out Dexter because, Dexter can be Siri when it needs to be. And we see a picture, and then we all have the realization that, oh my God, that's what the hippie was playing.
So we now need to go find Mr. Hippie so he can go and play this song, and we will be able to wake up Snorlax.
And I have issue with them saying we're going to find him, because that implies that he was moving, and when they left both times, it didn't look like he had any intention of ever moving.
No, not at all. I mean, he's sitting there waiting for some more civilians to come into town so he can get some money and get some food.
Right.
So, yeah, it's at that point that once they figure out that they need to go and find this guy, we immediately, I mean, they kind of shift points over to this old man. Like, it didn't really seem like it took them long to find him. Like, they just full on, we only got 20 minutes of this episode, so we got to fast forward through this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And at this point, we only have about 5.
Yeah. So
they come running up and they find him, and they say, we need to ask you a question. And but they say, actually, just matter of fact, just come here. Just come with us.
So they take the old man with them, and he doesn't really want to go. Well, not that he didn't really want to go. It was a matter of Ash was pulling on one arm and Team Rocket was pulling on the other arm, and freaking Meowth and Pikachu are over here getting ready to battle each other. Like, they were just working together like 10 minutes ago, Doug.
Right. And then the hippie has this really good line of, if you don't stop pulling, you're both going to get half of me.
Yes.
I'm going, that's not a great image for a freaking kid show, man.
No, but it's at this point, Team Rocket gets offended, and now they want to battle, and we get the whole, here's Arbok, here's Weezing, here's Pidgeotto coming out from Ash, and it's a whole Poke battle.
Kind of.
Yeah. It's at this point, well, no, it wasn't even Weezing, it was just Arbok, and
it's just Arbok, and all Pidgeotto did was Gust
and
or
just
Whirlwind, one of the.
Yeah, well, he said gusting whirl attack. So I think it was a mixture of both. So Team Rocket ends up in like a big gust of a twister, and then they go flying off again, and that's the last that we see of Team Rocket.
Yeah, I mean that's it. They're gone with 4 minutes left in the episode. Um, and then they're free to take the hippie with them, and we see Snorlax is still sound asleep. And then Ash says, "Play your pokey flute to wake him up." And then this is when we get the reveal that this hippie and the Snorlax know each other because that's his Snorlax.
So yeah, it's at this point. Ash goes in and he catches this Snorlax, and Snorlax is his now.
Not quite.
I know. But Snorlax does wake up, and Snorlax starts eating all these vines, and that's really almost it for this. And Pikachu is all happy that this flute is playing. So why didn't Meowth like this flute? Meowth was just all hating.
Well, Meowth's a prick. Well, he's just rotten to the core, I think.
Yeah. But once Snorlax gets up and starts moving and starts eating, because we find out that it wasn't just Snorlax that was blocking this water source, but it was all of the vines that were behind the Snorlax, which was soaking up all the water, and which is why all these vines had grown to the size that they were.
But luckily for our heroes and for the town and for the fact that it's the end of the episode, we find out that vines and thorns just happen to be Snorlax's favorite food.
Yes.
And he's going to eat until he eats 900 pounds of food.
All right. So
and once he eats the 900 pounds, he's going to go back to sleep. And then we find out that the old man has to do this every once in a while, like every couple of months. And I'm sitting there going, all right, if this is a monthly occurrence or whatever.
But I don't think Snorlax goes and lays on the water source every single time that this happens. I believe Snorlax just ate the vines and just flopped down at that one spot and just kind of just flopped himself and went to sleep.
Well, yeah, because we find Snorlax at the very end of the episode in a different spot.
But all right, it's
because we see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was about to say once Snorlax eats up all these vines, we see the water source finally start coming through, and then we're back with the wealthy old man and the trio, and they're watching the water raise back into town, so everyone can start getting their bread, their food, and they can start growing all their crops again. And now the wealthy man said that they're going to hold a special banquet for everybody to celebrate the return of the water.
And then we cut to Team Rocket, and they're walking and they're beat up, and we find the old man and the Snorlax again, and we find the Snorlax is asleep in a tree far away from the water source. So it was just a patch of bad luck, I suppose.
Yes.
And we find out that the Snorlax sleeps about as long as a moon cycle.
So, yeah, the old man's he's like, yeah, Snorlax is going to be out for a while. And he looks at his Snorlax watch and goes, I got to get going. He's like, keep on trucking, dudes. You're not going to wake up this thing.
Like, I got to go wake up another one. So apparently he's just got Snorlaxes all over the place. And he just has to periodically wake up.
And then we get the line of the episode. James is like, should we try to capture it? And Meowth is like, I ain't kissing it. We better.
I ain't kissing.
He's like, we better kiss it goodbye. So it's at this point Team Rocket is defeated. And we go to the narrator to end this episode, basically saying, well, do not disturb until it's feeding time. And Snorlax kind of moves over and just flops on top of Team Rocket. And that's how we end this week's episode.
That's the episode, exactly.
So it took me a while, Doug, but what's the episode where Ash actually gets his Snorlax? I completely forgot what episode, because at first I was thinking, I was like, it has to be this episode, but it's not.
Oh. I would have to look that up.
But yeah, I guess that's another day for another episode that we'll be going through. But what are your final thoughts on this episode, Doug? What do we give on the Doug rating of episodes?
It's not bad. It's not one of my favorites, but
it's a filler episode if there was any other kind of filler episode.
it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Didn't really do anything plot wise.
Not at all.
We met a new Pokemon. That's about it.
So yeah, we met Snorlax for the first time, and now it's time for our trio to continue their journey into next week's episode, which is called Showdown at Dark City. So, I can't wait to go over that one. That's an interesting episode, to say the least.
That's a word for it.
You ready for another filler, Doug?
Yeah, it is definitely another. We got to keep the plot going.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and say goodbye, Doug.
Goodbye, Doug.
And we will see you all next week at Showdown at Dark City, everybody. Have a good night.